Good evening. The final barriers to freedom are being removed in a major overhaul of our state's COVID roadmap. Masks and QR codes will disappear from a range of venues in just a few weeks' time. Density limits will be scrapped, and there's big news on schools. From Monday, they won't shut if there's a case, and close contacts will not have to isolate.
Black, white, cloth or paper. We all had our preference. The mask was the symbol of our battle with the pandemic. For more than a year we struggled with them.
My glasses get fogged up, I can't really see much.
Now a major change. From December the 15th, or when we hit 95% double dose, whichever happens first, masks will no longer have to be worn, except on public transport, planes, airports, hospitals and medical centres. Masks will have to be worn by front-of-house hospitality workers, but only if they're unvaccinated.
I can breathe properly now, so worry about it.
I find it claustrophobic.
It is very good because I cannot breathe in it.
Another change coming soon, no density limits.
That's probably the most substantial change that we've made today, and that is to remove the 1 per 2 square metre rule.
And QR check-ins will only be required at high-risk venues. Hospitals, aged care facilities, gyms, places of worship, funerals, hairdressers and beauty salons. And you'll still need to check in at pubs, small bars, registered clubs and nightclubs, and for indoor music festivals with more than 1,000 people.
I think they will almost certainly be removed at some stage, but we're just taking a cautious approach here. We're less concerned about venues like cafes and restaurants, so they're being removed.
And proof of vaccination will no longer be required. However, businesses can still ask to see it at their discretion. Proof will be required at indoor music festivals that have more than 1,000 people. As the state is unshackled, at Byron, it was a blast from the past. From a paradise to prison by the sea in a flash. The Aquarius Hostel. 81 backpackers locked up for at least 2 days after an unvaccinated staff member from Victoria tested positive.
I think that's really concerning. I think that people are knuckleheads if they're not going to vaccinate, because that's the sort of situation that you risk.
Health officers were busy herding everyone for a rapid antigen test.
I'm really waiting to see if there's other close contacts because people in the community are very nervous about that.
Mark Burrows, 9 News.
And from Monday, a major overhaul of how schools will deal with COVID. Lizzie Pearl is with me in the studio with the details. Lizzie.
Pete, schools will no longer shut if there's a COVID case, while children and teachers who come into contact with someone who has COVID will no longer need to isolate at home. Instead, they will have to get a PCR test as soon as they know they've been exposed. If that test is negative, students and staff can go back to school immediately, but they will have to provide a rapid antigen home test for the next 7 days. No changes to masks. They're still required in high schools and recommended in primary schools, while singing and band practice outdoors will be okay. This all comes into effect this coming Monday, November 29, and will no doubt be a huge relief for parents. Pete.
Lizzie, thank you. Let's go to Chris O'Keefe at State Parliament. Chris, is Dominic Perrottet effectively calling time on the pandemic?
Pretty much, Peter. There are hardly any further restrictions now to wind back. And with almost 95% of adults in New South Wales vaccinated, this is really our COVID normal. Now, Dominic Perrottet, throughout this entire pandemic, has always tried to instill common sense into our health rules. And that's caused a bit of friction between him and the health team, as well as a bit of friction between him and his former boss, Gladys Berejiklian, too. But as we start to free up here, there are countries in the Northern Hemisphere that are going back into lockdown as cases spiral out of control in their winter. And that is why our booster program is so important. So, Peter, while Dominic Perrottet and the rest of us want this pandemic to be over, the truth is, it's not.
OK, Chris, thank you.